unfortunately, I would never thought I would see this in my life. These individuals showing up at our library looking purposely for a confrontation and videotaping themselves with their smartphones.
Welcome to CADL CAST with Capital Area District Libraries Executive Director Scott Dimstra.
Welcome to another episode of CADL CAST. Libraries across the state and country are witnessing an unprecedented uptick in book challenges. The future of a West Michigan library felt the impact of these book challenges when a small group succeeded in their campaign against the library's millage renewal over a small offering of LGBTQ materials, essentially removing 85% of the library's budget. Joining us today is Larry Walton, the Library Board President of Patmos Library. Larry, thank you so much for joining us on CADL CAST.
Yes, thank you for having me this morning. I appreciate that, for getting the word out.
And just to kind of get the word out, can you tell us more a bit about the situation and how it came to be?
So yes, just to summarize this quickly, because there is quite a year-long history behind this tale and this situation. But you mentioned that there was and is still an organized group of what's called Jamestown conservatives, and that is a group that has a lot of conservative roots in this Jamestown area that is part of, I'll say, a Dutch Reform church group. And they did organize because they were not happy with LGBTQ books that were on are still on our shelves. And they were frustrated because they felt that the library board, which I'm part of, was not taking any action. Therefore, their action was to simply organize, have a no campaign, and ultimately the millage failed on August 2nd, thus potentially resulting in the future closing of our doors.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of people don't realize. And even when I read about the story, that even the vote no people were like, well, no one will essentially close a library. There'll be other ways to fund it. And I don't think people realize, no, there isn't. These operational millages are essential. And so the Patmos Library gained national attention when the millage failed. How has it impacted the library and the community to be at the center of that book banning debate?
So first off, the word stress. Our library staff was already stressed because we've had 2 directors quit this year due to harassment and safety concerns that the conservative group was initiating. Unfortunately, I would never thought I would see this in my life. That we did experience these individuals showing up at our library and looking purposely for a confrontation and videotaping themselves with their smartphones.
Wow.
So they were looking to confront the directors. We lost 2 directors this year. We are still without a director, which leads up to the stress. Going into the vote, we had no director, so the staff was stressed due to picking up the slack of the director, the board members picking up the slack of not having a director. And then all of a sudden it's voted down. So now you have the added stress of, well, I'm going to lose my job. The doors are going to close and I'm going to lose my job. So that's very, the anxiety, the stress levels, they are still, this wasn't this, it's what, 3 weeks away.
Yeah.
So it's still very recent, and it's still very hard at this point. So
sure. And I know you've gotten a lot of national attention and local and state attention as well too. Can you tell us about the support that you've received in response?
So yes, I want to break that up in 2 regards. There is the local community support outpouring, which is phenomenal. So a lot of our community, we are just short of 10,000 people in our community. We are a very fast-growing community in our area, being our location close to Grand Rapids, but still being in the country. It's a It's a very popular area for people to move into. So first off, there was a large portion of our community that was not aware that this was going on. Now they do. This local and national attention has gotten the word out that this is a major issue. This is a national issue, and our small town is in the spotlight this whole month. So the local community has come out. Our last board meeting had a record number of people. We were almost at 200 people showing up to a board meeting. That's
wow.
We jokingly say little over a year ago, and for the last 20 years, we had no public show up to our board meetings.
Now you're the hottest ticket in town. So
we are unfortunately, we expect and anticipate large audiences now. We welcome feedback, so it's all good. So the local support has been phenomenal. And of course, nationally, we never expected that there was an article by Bridge, Michigan, that one article was probably the first article that came out and that really exploded nationally. So a national attention everywhere. So
well, you should, I know it's very stressful, but just as someone in the library community that should be really proud of is you're standing up for kind of the essential purpose of public libraries, which is access to all and that First Amendment rights. And we, in the library community, not only just your local residents, but those of us in the library community are truly behind and support you. And I know millages, even just in a normal time, can be very stressful, but with yours not passing, you are putting it back on the ballot later this year. So can you tell us how that's going? And if there's anything community members can do to lend their support? So we did quickly. We during our board meeting had to make a choice between three options in regards to repursuing a millage. As you stated, 85% of our budget is the millage. So the only way to keep our doors open is to pursue a millage long-term. I say that long-term because, of course, we've gotten an influx of funds coming in from donations that will keep us open for a year. But long-term, 10 years, I have to have that millage. So we voted, we made a decision to pursue quickly this coming November ballot. We are pursuing that. And we just formed our millage committee last night, assigned action items last night quickly. This attention has allowed us to receive a lot of volunteers. And your question, we need still more volunteers. We still need local volunteers to help out with our committee. So that's the first thing I'm asking for, is for individuals to contact the library, contact myself to help out if you can, to volunteer with this committee. We call it the Yes Committee. And then here again, support. If you can't be on the millage, simply if you can volunteer to put a yes sign in your yard. It's that simple. You can get a hold of us. We'll be place an order to manufacture yes signs to get the word out, and just to have a large viewing of yes signs throughout our community would be phenomenal. So that's what we're hoping for. We're anticipating and spreading the word to get a larger portion of our residents to come out to vote this time in the November. The August was obviously during that time frame. August is a very smaller turnout during that time. So it is, and we were Capital Area District Library System. Our operational millage was on the August ballot as well too. And a lot of your planning is you need people who use the library to get out and vote, to show up at the polls. And I think what you said is essential. Like, you need to, if you support the library, you need to show up at the polls or vote however you vote. And it's not just sit back and it'll pass, but no, you have to be an active voter if you do see the value of the library.
Yes, very, very good. We need everybody, pro-library supporters, to come out and vote yes, bottom line. So.
And what are you hoping that listeners take away from this conversation?
So what I'm hoping they take away is the simple statement that all public libraries are for everyone. That's key. That is a key element. The second thing I would take away from this experience of listening to our community, to our patrons, is just simply you as parents taking your children to a public library, you're responsible for your children. You monitor your children, you monitor what your children is, what section of the library they're in, what books they may be looking at. You as the parent are responsible. We as the library are catering to all aspects of our community.
You could not have said it better, Larry. And for our listeners, I will also add, legally, library employees cannot act in place of a parent. So if you want your child to use the library and the library in the way that you imagine them using it, show up with them and visit the library with them, and they will follow your lead. So
yes. Thank you.
Is there anything you'd like to say to listeners who voted no for the library millage, or those who are undecided on where they stand on the library vote?
Yes. Our millage campaign, we talked about this last night, our millage committee will be campaigning to increase the awareness of what our millage is asking for. Millage language is confusing, and you show up to vote. And we know that when you show up and you see a word that says increase during these time of higher inflation and money is very tight for people, and right away they read and see a word increase, I'm letting our people know that our increase represents what we call a 0.1 mil increase. That 0.1 mil for an average household represents approximately an additional $20 to you per family a year. So it's a very small amount. From our point of view, that additional money to the library represents roughly around an additional $60,000 a year.
Wow.
And that small amount of money, we consider that small amount. That small amount of money was being subsidized by our township, and we, in collaboration between the library board and the township board, both agree that we would like the library to be a self-sufficient, self-funding entity of the township. And so if the millage can support without the township being involved with subsidizing, then we were both agreement that this is a good thing. But we know in the next 2 months, we do have to do a better job communicating that slight increase is not a large dollar amount, but as a whole, it helps keep our doors open. It helps to deal with inflationary costs with the wages of our staff. It helps us to even increase hours. And it will help us find a new director. As I said again, we're without a director, and we found and we know that for us to obtain a quality director, that we need to start offering some supplementary benefits with that position.
Sure.
We didn't have that in the past. We do need to offer that. So there are some costs to having a quality library in our area. So.
I agree. And with that quality library, for listeners, you get that money back. I mean, for the increase that Larry talked about, check out 2 items a year. You get that back already. So it's very easy to get your return on investment in a public library.
That's a great word. That's a great word.
Now, this is a library type podcast, so we always like to end with a suggestion from our guests. So any title that you're reading, that you're watching, or that you're listening to that you would recommend to our listeners.
Okay. So one of my favorites is, I want to suggest to the audience, is I read an author named Robert Parker.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Parker has a series called the Spencer series, and there's actually been a movie out there called Spencer on the series of books. But I'm recommending the Robert Parker Spencer series, and I love it just because there is lots of action and there is actually lots of humor in these actions. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out as being one of my favorites.
That's great suggestion. Great suggestion. Well, Larry, thank you so much for joining us on CADL CAST today. We wish you the best of luck. I'm very confident that your millage will pass, but you have many fans here in the Ingham County area, and we'll be watching with close eyes.
Thank you. Thank you for everything.
And for our listeners, thank you so much for listening to this latest episode of CADL CAST.
Don't miss another great interview. Subscribe to the CADL CAST podcast and share it with a friend.
Hey, it's Dee Dee in the morning with Dee Dee's weekly download from Capital Area District Libraries. This week's title is Didn't We Almost Have It All? In Defense of Whitney Houston by Garrett Kennedy. Music journalist Kennedy brings years of research plus respect for his subject to this examination of the complexities of Houston's life, music, and legacy. To stream or download this or other featured titles, visit cadl.org/Dee.
Stax 92.1. 1.